Massive protests have broken out in Paris after a 17-year-old teenager was shot dead by the police during a traffic stop on Tuesday. Protesters set ablaze garbage bins along with vehicles, and fireworks were lit as riot police clashed with the demonstrators in a haze of tear gas. 31 people have been arrested in the clashes, in which 40 cars were burned. Now, this took place in a Paris suburb where the victim was from. Prosecutors on Tuesday said that the shooting took place after the youth failed to comply with an order to stop his car. The officer fired at the boy, who subsequently died from his wounds. Speaking after a cabinet meeting with President Emmanuel Macron, spokesperson said that a police officer is in custody and is currently being investigated over voluntary homicide.
Évidemment, une très forte émotion, puisqu'un jeune de 17 ans a trouvé la mort dans des conditions.
We, of course, are strong emotion because a young man of 17 years old has died in brutal conditions. An emotion that we share with his family, friends, neighbors, and of course the entire nation. Since this is a young 17-year-old, the Interior Minister has restated that a judicial investigation has been opened. At this stage, as I'm speaking to you, there is a police officer in custody with an inquiry on voluntary homicide. As the Interior Minister said this morning, we wish for a communication to be done via the justice system once he gets out of the police custody. We understand the desire to have answers, and we wish for them to be given in all transparency as soon as we know about the facts. And we also want to call for calm in this very particular situation when emotions are high.
Je pense que c'est fondamental de faire la part des choses, et quand on est porteur d'une forme d'autorité publique, parce qu'on est...
All right, CNN News 18's Sanjay Suri joins me live with more details on this news story. Sanjay, first of all, why would a teenager get shot for a traffic violation? What transpired?
You know, we are aware, of course, that he was in that car, and it was apparently a rented Mercedes-Benz with two others, also minors, and they were clearly out for a good time, not quite following the rule book. The boy Nael has been in trouble with the police before for not having a driving license while he was driving a car. But if this car was rented, clearly he or somebody else in the car did have a driving license. He was stopped by two police officers, and there was an exchange. There was a warning given to him about violations that he's alleged to have committed. At some point, he decided to disregard what the officers said and started to drive the car, at which point he was shot dead right on the spot. Now, this is creating a real shock waves. Of course, if you go by the book, this is incorrect. It is, even if you can look at it legally, is not accepted. He broke the law by refusing to follow the officers. But it's not the most serious crime. If at all he had driven away, how far could he have got? The police would have alerted the system, and he would have been stopped within minutes by somebody somewhere. Shooting dead, this is excessive, this is extreme, and this really has shocked France.
Right. And Sanjay, if the police officer has been taken into custody, the police officer who did shoot the teenager, why is France still furious? There are reports that the police officer is lying.
Well, you know, this is, given the shock over what happened, an announcement that the police officer who shot him has been placed in custody and he will face charges of voluntary manslaughter. That is what is announced so far. We don't know what the prosecution eventually does. This does not begin to address the extent of anger over this. And this is an anger that has been brewing in all these neighborhoods in Nanterre, where this has happened, in Paris, and really a lot of these issues have become social issues and racial issues even. Nael was of Algerian descent, and a lot of people of African origin, whether North Africa as in Algeria or the African continent, there will be issues about acceptability, about opportunity, frustrations, and often this spills over into confrontations with the police. So there is without doubt a racial element to this, and a feeling that the police acted excessively. In fact, excessively to the extent anyone could. shooting dead. I mean, how much more
Right.
excessive can anyone be?
Right.
That this was and something that happened because, well, to put it rather bluntly, the people in the car were not white.
All right. Having said that, there's been much outpouring on social media from the French football team captain to even President Macron. They all have, in fact, reacted to this entire incident. Take us through the kind of reactions that have come in.
Well, you know, above all, for President Macron and for just about every senior leader in the government who has reacted and who has expressed shock over this incident, this is a shock, and this is an expression of shock and an appeal for calm that goes back to 2005 when two youngsters were killed, one of Algerian origin, the other black, and that led to rioting of the kind France has never seen before. It lasted 3 weeks. About 9,000 cars were burnt alive through that rioting. About 3,000 were arrested. There were people killed through the course of that rioting. And the aim is to prevent any recurrence of that, and so to seek to absorb the shock by the government leaders themselves coming out strongly against this. This clearly is the reason. Of course, there is no doubt that Macron and the others would be quite genuinely shocked as well, but there is a political tactical aim to this as well. And we do know that on the other hand, we've had voices from the far right calling some of these youths scumbags and expressing sympathy with the police and saying that the police should not be blamed for this, and there are police unions who are coming out in protest. So there are very strong views on both sides being expressed, and of course the views to the right are not being much multiplied in the media, but they will be felt around the country.